A question that money cannot answer. There's a question I want you to quietly ask yourself before we begin. If you had all the money in the world, could you buy back the time your parents waited for you? Not their sacrifices. Not their house. Not the gifts they gave you. Just the simple, fleeting time they spent waiting. Waiting by the door for your footsteps. Waiting by the phone for your voice. Waiting at the window just to see you come home again. You see, there are some things in life that come with no receipt, no refund, no second chance. And one of those things is the time we lose with our parents. In the rush to build our careers, raise our own children, and chase the next milestone, we forget something sacred. That while we are growing, our parents are aging. Quietly, silently, and without complaint. Until one day, you look up and realize their hands are slower, their voices softer, and their memories fading like mist in the morning sun. This video is not about guilt. It's about truth. It's about love. It's about the part of your life that can't be postponed, rescheduled, or remade. So before you go any further, I ask just one thing. Please stay. Not for me, but for the part of you that still remembers what it felt like to fall asleep in your mother's arms. Or to hear your father say, "I'm proud of you." If you're over 50, or maybe even 80, this message is especially for you. Because the clock doesn't stop. And love, if we are not careful, becomes something we realize too late. So take a deep breath. Turn the volume up. And listen closely. Because today, we are going to talk about something that every grown child must hear, and every aging parent has been waiting a lifetime to say. And if this message touches your heart even just a little, I invite you to subscribe to our channel, and more importantly, stay with us until the end. There's something here your heart has long needed to remember. 1. The unseen cost of saying I'm busy. It always begins the same way. A missed call. A postponed visit. A simple sentence spoken with no malice. Sorry, I'm just really busy right now. And perhaps, in the moment, it doesn't feel like much. After all, we live in a world where everyone is busy. There are meetings, deadlines, groceries to buy, and bills to pay. Life demands our attention constantly. But what we don't often see, what slips quietly beneath the weight of our to-do lists, is what happens to the heart of a parent every time their child says, "Not today." They wait. And they wait not because they have nothing else to do, but because nothing else matters more to them than you. There is something profound in the way parents love. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's not demanding. It is patient. It is faithful. It is filled with an unspoken hope that maybe, just maybe, this Sunday will be the Sunday you come home. That today, the phone will ring and it won't be a scammer or a stranger, it will be your voice, saying, "Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. I missed you." But for many, those calls don't come. Not because their children don't love them, but because we've created a life so full of obligations that we forget the people who once put their entire lives on hold for us. I once knew a man named Thomas. A successful architect in his late 50s, he was admired by everyone in his field. He designed towering buildings, sleek cityscapes, and award-winning homes. But his parents lived just a 2-hour drive away, and he hadn't visited them in almost 9 months. When I asked why, he shrugged and said, "I've been traveling for work. Every weekend something else comes up. Besides, we talk on the phone." But one Monday morning, as he prepared for a meeting in San Francisco, he got a call not from his parents, but from their neighbor. His father had fallen in the garden, and his mother, now frail and forgetful, had panicked and forgotten how to call 911. It took the neighbor over an hour to find them and help. Thomas dropped everything and drove straight there. And when he walked into the house, he was struck by how much had changed. The walls were lined with dust. The kitchen smelled faintly of burnt toast and boiled cabbage. And on the coffee table were several old photo albums, each turned to pages with pictures of him, his graduation, his wedding, his firstborn son. "I didn't know they still looked at these," he told me later, choking back tears. But of course they did. Parents don't stop being proud when you stop coming home. They don't stop loving when your life gets full. They just keep waiting. Quietly. With old albums and memories. With tea gone cold and chairs that sit too empty. What Thomas realized that day is something many of us don't grasp until it's almost too late. Time is not infinite. Not for them. Not for us. And every next week we promise becomes 1 week less we get to spend with them. We convince ourselves we have time. But let me tell you something as a professional who has worked with hundreds of older adults. Time is never promised. What is here today could disappear tomorrow, and the cost of being busy may very well be a goodbye you never got to say. I know what you might be thinking. But my parents understand. They know I love them. Yes, they do. But knowing and feeling are not the same. When you cancel a visit, they may say, "It's okay, sweetheart, I understand." But that night, they'll sit at a dinner table with one too many chairs. They'll rewrap the meal they made for you. They'll wonder, silently, if you'll remember them when they're gone. And that wondering, that loneliness, it's not something any amount of success or money can repair. I once heard a father say, "I don't want my children to feel guilty. I just want to be remembered." That's it. Just remembered. Not with flowers at a funeral. Not with words written in past tense. But with time. With phone calls. With visits. With small, ordinary acts that say, "You still matter to me." So if you're sitting here today, listening to this message, and thinking of your parents, if a face, a name, a soft voice echoes in your memory, please don't wait. Call them. Drive out to see them. Let them hear your laughter in their kitchen again. Let them feel your hug around their shoulders. Let them know, while they're still here, that they haven't been forgotten. Because one day, you'll sit at a table, and the chair across from you will be forever empty. And you'll wish, oh, how you'll wish you had made more time. Not to do something big. Just to come home. If this message stirred something in your heart, I hope you'll stay for the next part. Because there is more to be said, more that every grown child deserves to hear before it's too late. I'll meet you in message 2. 2. When success feels empty without someone to share it with. It's strange, isn't it? How we spend our whole lives climbing. We climb the ladder of achievement, building careers, accumulating wealth, chasing titles. We strive, we hustle, we sacrifice. And for a long time, it feels like we are doing it for our family, especially for the people who raised us, who gave everything so we could have more. But then, one day, we arrive. We buy the house. We drive the car. We sign the big contract. And as we stand there, at the height of everything we once dreamed of, something feels wrong. Something is missing. And often, it's not a thing at all. It's a face. A voice. A hand that once held yours when you were small. A pair of eyes that would have lit up with pride just to see you walk through the door. But they're not there anymore. And suddenly, the applause doesn't sound so loud. I met a man once, a retired executive named Richard. He had built one of the most respected hospitality groups in the country. Dozens of hotels carried his name. He had homes in 3 states, drove a classic convertible, and sat on the board of 2 national charities. But when I visited him at his estate in Colorado, he showed me something that didn't match the rest of his success. A small photo, faded and frayed, taped inside his closet door. It was a picture of his mother. She had passed away 2 decades earlier. And yet, every morning, he still looked at that photo before putting on his suit. When I asked him why, he smiled sadly and said, "She's the reason I started. And the only one I wish had lived long enough to see where I ended up." Then his voice broke. He whispered, "I promised her I'd make her proud. But I never promised her I'd come home." That sentence stayed with me. Because in our hunger to prove ourselves, to give our parents the world, we forget that what they wanted most wasn't the world. It was us. Not our accomplishments. Not our diplomas. Not our $1,000,000 homes. Just a Sunday afternoon with tea and a conversation. Just our laughter around the dinner table. Just a visit, a call, a hug that said, "I still need you." Richard told me that the day he received his company's highest award, he stood on the stage holding the plaque, and all he could think was, she would have cried tears of joy if she'd been here. But she wasn't. She had passed quietly in her sleep, in a small town 2 hours from a city. He had been traveling overseas for work and missed her funeral. "I built an empire," he said, "but I lost my foundation." You see, this is the quiet truth about success in later life. Without someone to share it with, it echoes. It doesn't wrap around your soul the way a parent's hug does. It doesn't fill the silence of a home when no one calls your name anymore. And it doesn't ease the ache of knowing that the people who once cheered your every step won't be there at the finish line. As a professional who works closely with aging families, I've seen this pattern time and time again. Grown children who chased greatness with the noblest of intentions, believing that one day they would return triumphant, bearing gifts, ready to honor their parents with everything they had earned. But when they finally returned, their parents were no longer there to receive it. And the home they left behind felt more like a museum than a memory. Let me be clear, success is not the enemy. Ambition is not the problem. Providing for your family is a beautiful thing. But it must never come at the cost of presence. Because presence is the only thing our parents ever truly wanted from us. Not the car. Not the gold watch. Not the promotion. Just us. And that is something you can give them right now, even if you haven't achieved all your dreams yet. Because for them, your presence is the dream. It always has been. So ask yourself honestly, when you finally get where you're going, will your parents still be there to greet you? And if they're not, will you be at peace with how you loved them while they were here? Because no award, no job title, no public recognition will ever feel more meaningful than your mother's smile when you walk through her door, or your father's quiet nod of pride when he watches you help him put on his coat. Don't wait until success feels hollow to realize that home was always your greatest victory. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to stay for message 3. There's more to uncover, more to reflect on before the opportunity to love fully turns into the burden of regret. Let's keep walking this path together. 3. The last time is always invisible until it's gone. There's a moment that haunts many grown children. It doesn't arrive with drama or fanfare. There's no countdown, no announcement, no flashing sign that says, "This is it." It's just an ordinary day. A phone call you don't answer. A dinner you cancel. A promise to visit that gets delayed. Just one more week. And then one day, the voice on the other end of the line goes silent. The window you looked through as a child now stands closed. And you realize, with a pain so sharp it takes your breath away. That was the last time. The last time your mother cooked your favorite dish. The last time your father asked if you had enough gas in your car. The last time they stood at the door, watching you drive away, hoping you'd look back just once more. And the tragedy is we never know when that last time is. Because life is not made of grand farewells. It's made of quiet moments. And those moments, unless we protect them, slip away without warning. I once sat with a woman named Evelyn. She was 72, newly retired, and had just lost her mother at the age of 94. Through tears, she told me something I'll never forget. I didn't get to say goodbye. I thought we had more time. Evelyn lived only 45 minutes from her mother. But like many of us, her days filled up with meetings, family obligations, errands. She loved her mother deeply, but time always felt short. They spoke often on the phone, exchanged photos, shared updates. But visits became rare. The last time Evelyn saw her mom in person was 6 months before her passing. When she got the call, she rushed over. But it was too late. "I keep thinking about that last visit," she said. She made peach cobbler. She asked if I wanted to take some home. I said no, I was watching my sugar. I kissed her on the cheek and promised to come back next weekend. That next weekend never came. And the regret of that unknowing goodbye became a weight she still carries. Here's the truth no one wants to hear, but everyone needs to. One day, you will pick up the phone, and there will be no one left to answer. You'll go to visit, and realize the house is empty. You'll listen to a voicemail over and over again, just to hear their voice one more time. And you will wish more than anything that you had made time. That you had kept your promise. That you had said, "I love you," just a little louder. As someone who has worked with countless families, I can tell you, the pain of loss is part of life. But the pain of regret, that is something we can avoid. You don't need grand gestures. You don't need to drop everything and move back home. But you do need to be aware of this one quiet truth. Time is slipping through your fingers, even now. Every day you don't call. Every week you delay your visit. Every next time becomes another moment you might never get again. And your parents, though they may not say it, feel the passing of that time more deeply than you can imagine. They notice the silence. They sit with it. They wonder what they did wrong. But they never stop loving you. Never stop hoping. Never stop waiting. And it's that waiting, gentle, persistent, invisible, that should move us to act. Because love is not just felt. It must be shown. It must be spoken. It must be lived while it still can be. So if you have a parent still alive, if there is even one person on this earth who once held your fevered forehead, who packed your lunch, who stayed up until you got home safely, please don't wait. Visit them. Call them. Ask them questions you've never asked before. Let them talk. Let them laugh. Let them tell the same story for the 5th time. Because one day, you'll long to hear that story again and you'll give anything to relive that moment. But no amount of money, no status, no success can buy it back. Evelyn once said to me, if I had known it was the last time, I would have stayed longer. I would have held her hand tighter. I would have said thank you for every little thing. You don't have to say those words after it's too late. You can say them today. You can still make the next time matter. Because the truth is, you never know when a goodbye is final until it's behind you. If your heart feels a little heavier now, I understand. But this heaviness is not meant to break you. It's meant to wake you. Wake you to the beauty that still exists. To the voices still waiting to be heard. To the eyes that still light up when you walk through the door. So don't look away. Don't close this message. Stay for message 4. We are not finished yet. There's more truth. More tenderness. More time if we choose to honor it. 4. Presence is the greatest gift you'll ever give. There's a gentle misconception many adult children carry, one that seems harmless at first but grows dangerous over time. It goes like this. I'll do more for my parents when I'm in a better place. When I have more money. When I finish this big project. When the kids are older. When the house is paid off. And so we wait. We wait to buy them something nice. We wait to take them on that trip they've always wanted. We wait to build the life we believe they'll be proud of. But here's what we often don't realize. While we are waiting for the right time to give them everything, they're only asking for one thing. You. Not the vacation. Not the expensive jacket. Not the box of supplements, or the latest phone, or the biggest birthday cake. Just you. Your voice. Your visit. Your presence. Because to a parent, especially one in their 70s, 80s, or beyond, your presence is proof they still matter. It's the medicine that no doctor can prescribe. It's the peace that no amount of sleeping pills can deliver. It's the nourishment that no food can provide. I once met an elderly woman named June. She lived in a small town in Oregon, in a modest 2-bedroom house she'd shared with her late husband for over 40 years. Her children had all moved to big cities: New York, San Diego, Chicago, successful, accomplished, living the dream, as she often said with pride. They called her on holidays, sent flowers on her birthday, wired money into her account every now and then. But June's eyes would light up in a completely different way when I asked, "When was the last time someone came to see you?" She paused, then said softly, "3 Christmases ago. That was the last time all my children were here. We had a roast and played cards. It snowed that night. They had to leave early because of a storm warning. I stood on the porch watching them drive away." Then she smiled. But it was the kind of smile that hides a deeper ache. I still remember the way the car lights disappeared into the dark. I stood there long after they were gone. She wasn't bitter. She wasn't angry. But she was alone. And no amount of money, cards, or fancy deliveries could change that. You see, there is a myth that says we must show our love in grand ways. That if we can't do something spectacular, we might as well wait until we can. But love never asks for spectacle. It only asks for sincerity. And when it comes to our parents, sincerity means showing up. It means driving 3 hours for a meal you could have eaten anywhere, just because it's their table. It means sitting beside them in silence, not because you have something important to say, but because they need to feel they're not invisible. It means holding their hand, even if it trembles. Helping them tie their shoes, even if you once hated when they laced yours too tight. It means listening, really listening, when they tell the same story for the 5th time, because to them, that memory is the proof they still existed before all this quiet. You might think you're too busy. You might think there will always be another chance. You might even think your parents understand. And yes, maybe they do. But just because they understand doesn't mean they don't ache. Just because they don't complain doesn't mean they don't cry softly, at night, when no one is there to hear it. I have sat with fathers who kept their cell phones beside their dinner plates, hoping this might be the night he calls. I have sat with mothers who kept a cake mix in the cupboard for months, in case she comes home this weekend like she said she might. And I have sat with grown children, weeping at gravesites, whispering, "I wish I had made more time. I wish I had just shown up." You don't need to wait until you can buy your parents a vacation to the Bahamas. They don't want the Bahamas. They want you to ask how their knees feel this week. They want you to notice that their favorite mug is chipped. They want you to sit beside them as they peel apples, the way they once peeled yours. They want the mundane, not the miraculous. Because real love is rarely loud. It's quiet. It's humble. It shows up when it doesn't have to. And in the end, it's the small things that they'll remember. The way you laughed at their old jokes. The way you fixed the squeaky door without being asked. The way you sat with them through an entire movie without checking your phone. Those are the things they will carry into their sleep. Those are the moments they will talk about to their neighbors, proudly, as if you were still 5 years old bringing home your first gold star. Those are the memories they will cradle when the house falls silent again. So don't let yourself believe that your presence is nothing. To your parents, it is everything. If you haven't called them today, do it. If you haven't visited in a while, plan it. Not for a holiday. Not for a special occasion. Not for a performance. Just because. Because you still can. And because love, in its truest form, is not measured by what we give, but by how often we show up. If you're still with me now, then I believe your heart is ready for what comes next. In Message 5, we'll explore a deeper truth, what it really means to forgive ourselves for the times we were absent, and how to rebuild connection, even late in life. Stay with me. There's still time to turn presence into peace. 5. Learning to forgive yourself before it's too late. There's a kind of sorrow that grows quietly inside many of us as we get older. It doesn't always have a name. It doesn't always show on our faces. But it lives in our memories, in the pauses of our conversations, in the heaviness we feel when someone mentions their mother's cooking or their father's old workshop. It's the sorrow of what we didn't do. The visits we postponed. The birthdays we missed. The promises we broke not with malice, but with distraction. And then one day, we wake up to the realization that the time we thought we had is gone. That the call we meant to make can no longer be made. That the door we said would walk through one day now stays closed. I've spoken with countless people in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, people who are successful, respected, admired. And yet when the conversation turns to their parents, a familiar pattern emerges. Their eyes lower. Their voice softens. And they say something like, "I should have done more. I wish I had said thank you more often. I wish I had held their hand longer before letting go." And beneath those words lies a deeper wound. Guilt. But let me tell you something important, something that may be the most healing truth you'll hear today. You are not alone. We all fall short. We all get caught in the current of life. We all forget until it's too late that love cannot be postponed. But guilt is not the same as grief. And guilt does not honor those we've lost. Grief, when expressed, can become a bridge back to meaning. Guilt, when left unspoken, becomes a prison. So let me say this clearly. If you are someone who carries guilt about the way you loved your parents, you are still worthy of peace. And more than that, they would want you to find it. I once sat with a woman named Teresa. She was 68 years old and had just lost her father. She was kind, compassionate, a devoted grandmother, but she couldn't speak about her father without tears flooding her face. She hadn't visited him in his final year. Her daughter had gone through a divorce. Her own health had been declining. Work had been chaotic. There were always reasons, until there were no more. He died thinking I didn't care, she said. That I had forgotten him. But here's what she didn't know until we spoke with her father's nurse. In the final weeks of his life, he kept a photograph of Teresa by his bedside. He showed it to everyone who walked into the room. "This is my girl," he said. "She works hard. She's doing her best. I'm so proud of her." He never once said she had let him down. Not once. Because that's how parents are. They love you through your absence. They remember your goodness, even when you forget to show it. They forgive before you even ask. And they hold on to your light, long after you've dimmed it with guilt. So if you're still here, if your parents are gone, or even if they're still with you but you've grown distant, I want to ask you something that might feel impossible. Can you begin to forgive yourself? Not because you're blameless. Not because it erases what happened. But because your heart deserves healing and your parents, in their deepest love, would want nothing less for you. Forgiveness doesn't mean pretending it never hurt. It means saying, "I see what I did. I see what I missed. And I'm choosing to live differently from this day forward." You may not get to make the visit you once promised. You may not get to say that final goodbye. But you can honor your parents now, by loving your own children with more presence, By reaching out to the elders in your life who are still here. By writing a letter even if they're no longer alive and pouring into it every word you never said. Because love never truly ends. It lives in every choice we make after the silence. In every lesson we carry forward. In every phone call we choose not to delay. Teresa began writing letters to her father every Sunday. She keeps them in a box beside her bed. And every time she feels the old guilt rising, she opens one and reads it aloud because in those moments, she's no longer defined by absence. She is defined by return. And you can return, too. Not to the past. Not to what was lost. But to what still remains. You can return to love. You can return to presence. You can return to peace not because everything was perfect, but because you chose to keep loving anyway. If you've been waiting for a sign to forgive yourself, to soften your heart, to make that call or plan that visit this is it. Don't carry the weight of regret one day longer than you have to. Lay it down. Let it breathe. Let it transform. In Message 6, we will walk one final path together toward a deeper understanding of what it means to age with dignity, to love with intention, and to leave behind a legacy not of things, but of time well spent. I'll meet you there. Let's finish this journey. Together. 6. When they're gone, how will you choose to remember them? There comes a moment in every life when silence fills a space that once held laughter. A chair remains pulled out. A mug still sits where it was last placed. The scent of a favorite dish lingers faintly in the kitchen, even though the stove has been cold for weeks. It is in these moments after the loss, after the funeral, after the calls have stopped that we are left with something no one prepares us for. The quiet. And it's in that quiet that a new kind of question rises. Not, did I do enough? Not, why didn't I come sooner? But this. Now that they're gone, how will I choose to remember them? You see, grief has two choices. It can chain us to guilt, or it can carry us to gratitude. And while we cannot go back, we can go forward differently. We can choose to make every act of love from this point on a tribute to the ones who raised us, who waited for us, who forgave us even when we were too busy to notice. Because memory, when honored with intention, becomes legacy. And legacy, when built on presence, becomes eternal. I once met a man named Harold. He was 83 years old when we spoke, a quiet soul who lost both his parents in his 30s. At the time, he had been a rising star in finance working 16-hour days, chasing dreams, traveling constantly. I was never home, he said softly. I missed a lot. And for many years, Harold let that guilt consume him. Until one morning, sitting at his breakfast table, he saw a photo of his father holding him as a baby smiling wide, unshaven, holding a bottle with one hand and a book in the other. And something shifted. He realized that his father's love had never been about what Harold did. It had always been about who Harold was. From that moment on, Harold made a vow. He would live the rest of his life as a man his parents would be proud of not because of how much he earned, but because of how deeply he loved. He began volunteering at a local shelter, mentoring young men without fathers, writing letters to his grandchildren, tending to the garden his mother once adored. And every day, before going to bed, he lit a small candle beneath their photo, not because he believed they could see it, but because he needed to remember that real love never disappears. It transforms. It passes from their hands to ours. It becomes the way we speak gently when we want to shout, the way we make someone a meal without being asked, the way we sit beside an aging neighbor and ask about their day, even when we are tired. These, too, are acts of remembrance. These are modern prayers. These are the ways we say, I still hear your voice, even if only in my heart. I still feel your warmth, even if only in memory. I am still your child, and I will carry your love forward. So let me ask you, now that you've walked through these 6 messages, now that you've remembered the waiting, the tears, the meals, the calls, the silences, how will you honor what you've just remembered? Will you pick up the phone and call your father? Will you visit your mother even if she says, don't worry about me, I'm fine? Will you sit with your memories, not as punishments, but as sacred treasures you carry forward? Will you forgive yourself and begin again? Because this is the moment. This is your window. The world doesn't pause for our healing. But love waits. Love is patient. Love is always ready to begin again. Even now. Even here. Even if it's been years since you last said, I love you. Even if the grave has grown mossy, even if the phone line is no longer open, you can still speak to them. You can still live in a way that brings them joy. You can still become a mirror of the love they once gave you quietly, fully, without condition. And in doing so, you become the parent they once were. You become the home they once gave you. You become the light that never went out. So today, as this message closes, I leave you with no task, only a choice. To carry them with you not as regret, but as reason. To carry them forward. Because they are not behind you. They are the kindness in your voice, the patience in your hands, the wisdom in your silence. They are, and will always be, your beginning. And how you choose to continue that story is entirely up to you. If this message touched your heart, I invite you to do something simple but powerful. Subscribe to this channel. Not for the numbers, not for the vanity, but because here, we are building something sacred, a place where love is remembered, grief is honored, and wisdom is passed from one generation to the next. And if this story brought you to tears, or helped you forgive yourself, or made you want to call someone you love, leave a comment. Let us know what you carry. Let others know they're not alone. And stay with us, because in the next videos, we'll continue walking this beautiful, bittersweet road called aging with peace, with presence, and with purpose. Thank you for listening. Thank you for remembering. May your next phone call come sooner. May your next visit last longer. And may your love quiet, imperfect, and real be felt by those who need it most. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, take care of your heart, and those who still wait for you.